Recorded live with little or no editing. It's Defense Up. I'm Run 7. How you doing? Today we're going over TLC's defense in War. We've been doing some War ones recently. TLC is rocking Plat 3 at 21 million, and they have a half and half defense, which is the first 4, maybe 5 rooms are smaller junk teams that kind of draw people in and may take advantage of those targeting tyrants, as Zero calls them, those people who like to target easy rooms and walk away, and then you're stuck with the back half of this, which is some much tougher rooms. We found some things that we could do, but we're going to talk about why some of these low-level, low-investment teams are actually okay, and well, we're just going to work through it. Remember, I don't come up with this stuff anymore. The War and Crucible has become too advanced for me, so I rely on the help of other content creators and community assistance members to join me on Voice and go over these teams. And if you want to be a part of those conversations, you can find me live on Twitch Monday through Friday for the most part, where we talk about stuff like this and making fun of me in general. So be sure to stop by. And if we make any mistakes, then you can blame the people who are giving me the information behind the scenes. All right. So room number 1 is the ShangChi team, and it really is the ShangChi team. What's happening here is that the rest of the team is invested in enough that they have like their passive abilities and things that are giving ShangChi what he needs to do, which is basically revive. Basically, ShangChi's going to be able to revive. And so you go into this, you cannot beat this with a team that's 294. Your opponent has to invest more into beating this team than you did putting it on defense. For that reason alone, we really like this. However, kind of irks me because I think as a whole, you could possibly get some more value out of the Heroes for Hire and especially some of their hybrids that we see in War defense these days. But that requires a substantial investment, and at this point in the game, it's too late to be investing in Heroes for Hire. So for that, I'm going to give TLC a B+ on this team. The ISOs on the other people don't matter. They absolutely don't matter because they're just going to die. Doesn't matter. ShangChi as a raider is where it's at. We don't really have a better spot for ShangChi to go without building the Heroes for Hire team. Marauders are trash. They're too old. I don't like them. This room, it's terrible. It's an absolute filler, and TLC knows it. Again, we're hoping that people look at this room and say, oh, here's somebody easy, let's roll over them. And so we have Sabretooth here, which the Weapon X team on TLC's roster is pretty mismatched in power, so that's why he's using Sabretooth here. I would give him a much, much worse grade if he had a fully functioning Weapon X and was wasting Sabretooth on this room. Don't use Sabretooth here. He should be used with the Weapon X team, even if you're just putting Weapon X on defense. However, it's appropriate for TLC's roster. He was on Voice with us, defending some of his choices, which is probably a good thing because we would have been yelling that a lot of things are garbage, but he explained it to us in working order. By the way, TLC averaging 8 to 10 defensive victories and getting first or second place in his alliance and stats, doing really well at that Plat 3 level. So for you guys out there, don't put Sabretooth in here. This is a junk team. It's old. It's not stopping anything. Nobody really cares about the Marauders. You'd have to be like a crazy Kraken to get any kind of value out of this team, and even then, it's not so much. Pathfinder says that there is a secret, super duper amazing Marauders defense, but he won't spill the beans on it, so you can go to his stream and pester him about that. Room number 3 is the Web Warriors. It's Web Warriors, guys. Everything's beating the Web Warriors, even though Pathfinder thinks that they're the greatest team in the entire game, and he thinks that everybody should take them to G18. That's a quote from Pathfinder, by the way. You can blame him for that. It's just a filler. You can't use them on offense. They're gonna get beat on defense.
Here, for the love of God.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Yeah, so it's Web Warriors. It is what it is. They're garbage. Don't listen to data mines. If you can avoid putting them on defense, please do. This is just, again, drawing people into his room to attack for what comes later in the lineup. Hero Asgardians, this is, if they're built bigger and you combine them with Beta Ray, Bill, and Val, you can get some pretty good value out of them. However, the Asgardian team, this team is not worth building up. So if you don't already have them built, don't hybridize them. You could just use them as another filler team. What we do want to do here, actually, though, is we think we can still get some value out of Valkyrie, because later you're going to see a Bifrost team, and we're thinking putting her on the Bifrost team. So we're going to replace Valkyrie with anybody that has a Asgardian tag to mesh with this team, and then just don't forget about it. All Raiders, fine. They're all critting. It doesn't matter. Again, this team's pretty much going to fold. It doesn't excite me, but it's being utilized well as far as the resource mechanics of the roster as a whole. I'm not excited about it. I'm just going to give it a C. Now we're starting to get somewhere. They're kind of ramping up towards something. This is the Young Avenger team with America Chavez. Now, America Chavez, if she has the T4, can speed people up, right? That 25% on spawn to adjacent. So she could be used on other war defenses to great effect. However, she doesn't have the T4. She's not built up big enough. And people aren't sure about that. So they think that this is going to be a much tougher Young Avengers than it really is. And they may overcommit to this one. And that's cool. So go ahead, throw her in here. That's fine. We do kind of like the placement. It's pretty good. You've got, I'm kind of skeptical about having Squirrel Girl next to Ms. Marvel, although Squirrel Girl's built up so much bigger, she can kind of take the hits. So all in all, again, for this specific roster with these power levels and what the design of the entire defense is trying to do, it's okay. We don't mind this. So I'm going to give this one a B. It's not super exciting, but there's actually nothing really done wrong here. All right, next up is Room 6. This is that Bifrost team. We want to replace probably Kid Loki, maybe Sylvie. Sylvie doesn't do much outside of the raids. So we're thinking about replacing Kid Loki and Sylvie, maybe OG Loki, but OG Loki does give some reduced resistance. He does call that, he does do the mind control effect, which could actually, depending on who they bring in, that could do some serious damage. So OG Loki might actually have some value here. There's some ideas of what we want to do with placement. Do we want Vol next to Beta Ray Bill? Something like that. Do we like the first three all on an island? It's kind of dealer's choice, but we would like to put Valkyrie in here for sure, because then they die and Vol revives them and they're getting the Valkyrie passive, which is really, really helpful with this team. Also, the second person that you could bring in here is Dormammu, giving them revives and making this whole thing a bit tougher as well. That way if Vol dies, Vol can get revived from the Dormammu stuff. So that's what would take this to the next level. However, if you just want to throw in a straight Bifrost team, it's got some pretty big numbers. They're kind of new. I don't think it's going to stop too much. You just got to hit them hard and kind of pay attention to what you're doing. Make sure you take out the right people first. Just remember the Vol revives. And in war, Sylvie doesn't do all that much, so you shouldn't have to worry about it too much. They also don't do that crazy counterattack mechanic because of Kid Loki. That's a raid thing. So this is why we put them in Crucible Room 2. And in war, we want to try and hybridize this a bit more. Again, Valkyrie and Dormammu to get the A+ on this team. For me, this is like a B+. It's pretty good. Nothing crazy wrong here. Pathfinder really likes Skirmisher on Beta Ray Bill. I'm running him as a Raider, I believe, and I'm thinking, I was hoping to get more crit damage out of him, but his stats just don't support it. Trying to get that stun and flip those bleeds turns out to be the better choice, so I may be changing mine to a Skirmisher as well. Moving on to room number 7 is the Rebirth team, and we have Black Widow in here. Another choice beyond Black Widow could be Zemo. We've seen that a million times before in previous videos and in Crucible and all sorts of stuff. So you could use Zemo. TLC Zemo isn't built very big, and he's taking Black Widow into DD6, so there she is. What we would like to do with this team is get a placement swap. Let's change Winter Soldier and Black Widow's position. That way you have her going invisible next to the tank, and it puts everybody else on the other side of her, stopping chain attacks and whatnot. All in all, this is a really good team. You're not going to be using them on offense, or probably not going to be using them on offense, and it's done pretty well. So aside from that placement swap, we kind of like this. I'm going to go ahead and give it an A-. Over here, we have the Secret Defenders with APOC, and it turns out that this isn't as big a deal as some people think. It's just new, and it's powerful. And somebody like me would fail miserably going into this team, not knowing what they're doing. And so it's working right now, and it's getting TLC a lot of defensive victories. And you could be using it on defense right now as well. But we do think that in the future, probably the near future, we're going to see this team start getting countered with more and more efficient counters, especially as your favorite content creators show you more videos made by them in the community that show you how to go into this team, and then you'll be moving them to offense because they're really powerful and they can do a lot of things on offense when you're controlling them. As for the ISOs and the placement and all that stuff, it's pretty good. What we could do with Photon, since she's not built super high, is if you have an America Chavez that has the T4 and can speed people up, you could put her in there in place of Photon, giving that speed to Black Cat, giving that speed to Robbie, getting some damage out of those characters early on in the match. That's another trick that you could use. Again, TLC doesn't have that choice available to him. So I'm going to give this one an A-. I think it needs a little bit more of an investment in Photon or something else to make it happen. And we got to be careful about watching this in the histories and seeing if it's still holding up or if people are starting to one-shot it with those efficient counters, or I should say more efficient counters. Team number 9 is the Darkhold team. I'm going to say this is an A for me. It's fine. It's a 5-piece. It's not very exciting or anything. We could take it to the next level with a pre-taunt tank in place of Scarlet Witch, and then it would be better. But we've seen this a lot, and it's not very exciting, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. Team number 10 is the Undying Tangled with Emma. Emma's being wasted here. She's not adding a lot of value to this. I don't think it changes the matchup. This is just food for Death Seed. Everybody's like, I was trying to talk about different things that could beat this, and they're like, 7, just throw Death Seed at it. It's that easy. So it's Death Seed. I personally am starting to use my Undying more and more. I think that there should be a better investment into this Hela. I think the Undying team is a powerful tool, can be used on offense, not so much on defense with smaller summons and revive, or smaller summons and minions and whatnot. They tend to be fodder for certain teams, and you got to be careful with them, and that's why I don't like seeing this on defense. But Hela's not big enough to use this on offense, and TLC just doesn't need any more offensive teams, so they're throwing this in here. I would like to see Emma taken out of here for sure. I think that's kind of a waste, and we could do something better, maybe a pre-taunt tank or something like that. I don't know. Dealer's choice on who you want to throw in here, but without putting in a bigger investment in Undying, this is where he wants it, so it's okay. I'm going to go B- on this. I'm not super excited. I think that there are better ways to utilize these pieces. Overall, the idea that's happening with this team is working for TLC, and remember, if something is working, don't fix it. We have a bunch of easy to beat teams shown up front, drawing people in, and then we get into tougher, newer, more challenging ideas that people are having trouble with. They may or may not last. We don't know. Watch your histories. Always pay attention. And be sure to pay attention to your content creators and your Discord servers and talk with your alliance mates to get the best, freshest information possible so that you can be tricking people with those awesome maneuvers that other people are thinking about. And I'll do my best to lure those other people onto Defense Up so that they can tell me what to tell you, and you can do amazing, and you can give me all the credit for it and not give people like Bendable Straws, Zero, Rolf Karen, or Pathfinder Gaming any of the credit, because I want to steal it all. I'm a big hog like that. Anyways, guys, thanks for joining me. Remember, don't just have a good game, be good to yourself and others too, and I'll see you next time. Bye.